The next day, Xiao Han changed into the Zhuge family's clothes. He voluntarily went to the Hubei Alliance's territory. But just as he crossed the boundary, Xiao Han felt. After hearing this, a few were concerned, saying, "Master, are you planning to stay at the Zhuge family?" But Qin Xiaohan said to call him Zhuge Shaoxing from now on. As soon as he said that, everyone fell silent. Once they get the news, they'll definitely join forces with the Pang faction experts to come after me. And nearby, the Wudang sect or the Hubei Alliance might also come. I will stay here. You all go back first and prepare. Without hesitation, he pulled the blades out, bringing along the liver and other organs in the process. Qin Xiaohan then ordered his men to clean up the scene, and said, "This battle was so easy. It's probably because of the Pang faction and the elder seat in the Zhuge family." But his arm went down, but his hands never lowered. Xiaohan suddenly bent down and thrust out his twin blades. Then he said to the head of the Zhuge family, "You shouldn't have asked me for 30 million, nor should you have mocked an orphan." Because of this, he suddenly had 300 cuts all over his body. Xiao Hanlin appeared to know who my master was. He quickly dodged above the head of the family. The head of the family wanted to swing his sword down in defense, with Bai Xiaohan moving like lightning to strike. All that could be heard was the sound of swords clashing. But Xiaohan's figure was nowhere to be seen. At that moment, the head of the Zhuge family suddenly felt his body go stiff. His blood vessels seemed about to burst from his eyes. "Go find your dead parents." In less than a second, the head of the Zhuge family had a cut opened on his left arm. Xiahua raised his knife, his face dark as he said they didn't want to live stream. Various reasons led to this outcome. Once the smoke clears, it becomes clear that Xiao Han has already teleported to the back. This teleportation used up all his strength. Then he spews out a mouthful of fresh blood. The head of the Zhuge family laughs loudly. An orphan really can't accomplish anything significant. In the next moment, at an incredible speed, he shot towards the stone wall behind. Looking back, Xiao Han was already covered in wounds. He can no longer move. The head of the Zhuge family strikes again. But this time, he comes with a sly grin. Xiao Han seized the opportunity. He dashed straight from the dragon's mouth. But the dragon, which should have dissipated, transformed into two giant dragons charging at Xiao Han the next second. Caught off guard, Xiao Han had his arms tightly bitten by the two dragons. In the next moment, the head of the Zhuge family raised his sword above his head. All the dissipating imperial power was absorbed into the blade. Waiting until it was all absorbed, the head of the Zhuge family suddenly slashed down. Suddenly, an angry golden giant bone surged towards Xiao Han, opening its mouth wide. Then, he mocked the head of the Zhuge family. "You had to wait until all the servants were dead before you showed up. What a true man you are." The head of the Zhuge family looked at the corpses everywhere. His body actually emanated strands of imperial power. The next second, however, showed a look of horror. All the guests were dead with no chance of survival. Two figures stood in the center. One was the demon disciple who had never revealed his strength. The other was the unharmed Xiaohan woman. In the next moment, a killing intent-filled sword energy surged toward the Zhuge family. He swiftly withdrew. He condensed his true energy within the long sword, then easily deflected the sword energy, and calmly walked into the courtyard. It landed heavily on the ground outside the courtyard. A henchman from the Zhuge family waved his hand. The power within him gradually dissipated. He then looked at Xiao Han's hand. "A bunch of useless guys. Dissipate all the incoming force." But at that moment, the Zhuge family had already arrived in front. The next second, a heavy punch struck directly at Xiao Han's face. The immense impact slammed the door shut, and Xiao Han's figure was twisted by the blow. Even the invisible air was blasted apart by the force. For the first time, Xiao Han felt danger. Step back smoothly, then brace with both feet. Seize the opportunity to use some defensive moves taught by the master. After dozens of exchanges, neither of them were injured. Seeing this, the head of the Zhuge family took a step back and inhaled deeply. A surge of incredible power erupted. The stirred-up smoke forced everyone back. A few meters away, the two roared furiously as they slashed at each other. The sound of several weapons slicing through the air followed in quick succession. Close combat. The long sword in his hand trembled continuously. With a crackling sound, the sword collapsed inward. In the next second, the family head was pulled out by the long sword. In that brief moment, the sword aura exploded like starlight. At this moment, Xiao Han appeared like a plague god in the eyes of the guests. The guests cast pleading looks towards the family head. Zhuge, the family head, knew. If he didn't act now, he would lose his threat. Then, with light footsteps, he displayed his skills. The place was filled with flashes of blades and shadows of swords. The guests' screams of terror. But to Xiao Han, they sounded like cheers. A wave of malevolence gradually surged out from within. The guests instantly realized that Xiao Han was definitely the enemy of the people. With a swift motion, Xiao Han struck down, and easily plucked one. The next moment, the guest illuminated by the purple light froze. They were cut in half with just one strike. Xiao Han had already killed the guest in the center. Xiao Han flipped his wrist as he pulled out the curved blade. This response elicited laughter from the family head. The moment I saw you, I wanted to send you flying. You still dare to be so impudent here. The next second, Xiao Han's gaze suddenly shifted. A purple glow appeared on the guest beside them. Xiao Han, those twin blades in your hands. I find them quite familiar. I wonder what master you serve. Xiao Han smiles mischievously. You don't need to know. And in the earlier battle, Xiao Han grasped the essence of the physical technique with just one glance, then raised his leg and swept it across. This kick precisely struck the guardian's head. It directly kicked the left guardian back to where he should be. The Zhuge family has noticed that Xiao Han's weapon looked somewhat familiar, and kicked straight at Xiao Han's face. But while Xiao Han was dodging, he quickly swung his machete. All that could be heard was the sound of flesh tearing. The leg tendons of the guardian were completely severed. Only then was he barely able to catch this ghostly attack. The protector of supreme bliss immediately gave up on the sword technique. He switched to body techniques. Suddenly, the protector's right leg exerted force. He doesn't give the guardian a chance to think or speak. The next second, the guardian feels a chill behind his neck. He turns to look. But all that could be seen was Xiao Han's weapon slicing horizontally. The protector exerted all his strength. The left guardian is introducing himself as a member of the Zhuge family's organization. Xiao Han suddenly draws his sword and slashes down. The guardian curses, as expected, you're just a lowlife from the underworld. Such dishonor. Xiao Han's moves are unpredictable. During his seclusion, then, he asked the guests to clear the middle area, and lock the main gate. He set up a malevolent ghost formation outside. In the next second, the left protector of the Zhuge family. In the next moment, a cold and terrifying sword aura burst forth. It sent the infamous Chen Xiao Han flying. The head of the Zhuge family saw that this person was just a pretender. He called the guests to stand guard. He wanted to see how far the protector had advanced. The head of the Zhuge family looked down from above. He watched as Xiao Han harvested heads like cutting vegetables, until Xiao Han finished off the last servant. The Zhuge family's master suddenly felt his aura rise sharply. He signaled the servants of the Zhong family to subdue Xiao Han. In the next moment, several servants rushed out from all directions toward Xiao Han. Xiao Han moved like lightning. He quickly struck back. Then all that could be heard were screams of despair. The door mysteriously opened. A calm and imposing voice rang out. Who dares to intrude upon the Zhuge family? A hint of mockery appeared on Xiao Han's face. He then drew his dual crescent blades, sensing that the situation was dire. An explosion sent dust flying everywhere. Some of the weaker soldiers were even turned to blood on the spot. When Xiao Han finished all of this, his men had also completed the outer tasks. Just as Xiao Han reached the entrance, you can see him using a lamp for leverage. Xiao Han jumps high into the air, under the illumination of the moonlight. It was as if the intent to kill surfaced. Immediately, the energy gathered at one point, but what you face is terror, immediately leading everyone to charge at the left and right wings of the main gate. His subordinates are responsible for clearing the minor enemies. Xiao Han, on the other hand, charges straight down the middle, but unexpectedly, it caused an explosion. The horn blower nearby also noticed the anomaly. He immediately took a deep breath toward the horn. The next second, countless minions swarmed in. Xiao Han remarked that these lackeys reacted pretty quickly. Then, the group swiftly moved to the front gate. But this time, they were spotted, randomly shouting, "Assassin!" Xiao Han didn't want to attract more enemies. Then a wave of sword energy shot straight ahead. At this moment, the guards by the side gate are still talking about unspeakable things, unaware that a black figure has already appeared above them. The continuous whooshing sound finally caught their attention. But just as they reacted, they were slain. No chance to fight back at all. Quickly approaching the gates of the Zhuge family, after arriving at the verification location, Xiao Han signaled to stop. Everyone understood and put on their masks, to prevent identity exposure. I will handle personally. When everyone heard this, the battle instantly filled their bodies. With a command from Xiao Han, everyone suddenly stepped forward. Below, the Zhuge family was brightly lit. Along with Xiao Han came a group of talented individuals. Xiao Han instructed them to deal with the foot soldiers only. Be careful not to get hurt. The head of the Zhuge family. It's fine if you cannot assist with force. Please help spread this message. And I, Chen Xiao Han, will attack the Zhuge family. The next night, Xiao Han stood on the edge of the cliff, dressed in black. But the cost is 30 million taels. Otherwise, we will become enemies of all the righteous factions. I have evidence and witnesses of the Zhuge family's extortion in my possession. I ask those threatened by the Zhuge family, or those who have paid them, to ally with me. The information shocks the sect leader. Everyone, I am Qin Shaohan. I believe you have all been sought out by the Zhuge family. They propose to make me a hero, and that I can join the righteous faction. At the same time, a sharp sword was placed on the plaques of all sects in the martial world. At the front of the sword is tied a piece of cloth. Dei unties the cloth and hands it to the sect leader. On the cloth, as the name suggests, is the number 1 person in the world. This is a being you, an evil person, cannot provoke. The irritable Xiao Han directly brought up Zhuge Wu because of your words. I will declare war on the Zhuge family. Just one small stone was enough to deflect Zhuge Wu's powerful strike. That night, Xiao Han went to the cellar, looking at the already compiled ranking of white martial forces. Among them, the level of people of the world caught Xiao Han's attention. Zhuge Wen explained that the people of the world. He'd had enough of being the sparring partner these past few days. Xiao Han sensed that something was off, not knowing where she found a small stone. The moment the small stone was thrown, Xiao Han's fingers shot forward like a sharp sword. Zhuge dodged with a strange spinning technique, then suddenly kicked hard. As the man fell to the ground, Zhuge Wu immediately followed up, intending to land the final blow. A strong young man stepped out from the crowd. Suddenly, he pushed off with his feet, and his whole body rushed forward. It was originally a wooden sword, but the man used it for a horizontal blade slash. Zhuge Wu's face was already flushed. He was surrounded by a crowd in a small square. Cursing in his heart, he thought, damn Qin Shaohan. He's using me as a sparring partner. On the platform, Shaohan called out for Zui Yongmeng. Understood, seeing Shaohan about to leave. Zhuge Wen shouted, Master Chen. Is my brother still alive? Xiao Han turned back with a smile, and didn't stop. Then he was sent flying by Xiao Han. He crashed straight into the wall. Xiao Han angrily said, you're wasting time. You can just shut up forever. Zhuge Wen mumbled that he understood. I then asked the class master, what do you want to know? I will cooperate with Xiao Han. This will allow them to write out the list of all the experts in the White Road Alliance and their levels of martial arts. Zhuge Wen hesitated for a moment. My strategist Zhuge. Do you have anything to say? Zhuge Wen is a smart man. He knows his situation. In an instant, I understood that Qin Shaohan meant to cooperate with myself. At that moment, Shaohan entered, wearing a long black robe. He lifts the white cloth on the small table, revealing an array of gruesome torture tools. Shaohan carefully selects a butcher's knife. Zhuge Wen, who has never dated, is now completely panicked. There was a loud bang. Both of them collapsed. 2.5 days passed. Zhuge Wenkai slowly regained consciousness. He quickly scanned his surroundings. He continued to praise Xiao Han for making the right decision. Moments later, Zhuge Wen felt a wave of heat sweep over his body. The pupils gradually contracted. Cold sweat started to break out all over the body. Xiao Han then took out the white jade fan, and said, the amount you want is too large. You'll have to wait a few days. A toxic mist began to spread from the upper valley. The representative of the Zhuge family did not notice the change. Xiao Han coldly replied, if I pay, I am a hero. If I don't pay, I will become a villain. At that time, I will become an enemy of all righteous people. Is that so? Zhuge Wen did not answer. He only sneered coldly. The Zhuge family, who fabricated the heroes list, said that as long as you paid 30 million taels of silver, they could write Xiao Han as the hero who killed the 4 great villains. Xiao Han retorted, what can you do if we don't? Zhuge Wen's expression turned cold. Then we can only write that you are villains who ravage and massacre for the sake of territory. We will also write that you are disciples of the poison demon. This proves they no longer want to kill me. After that, the two of them began to teach martial arts and used favors as leverage. After hearing it, I sighed, realizing this brother was indeed extraordinary. After Xiao Han's fame spread, just come, it's fine. Then the master angrily scolded himself for going too far. In the end, he left. After the master left, I started to smile nervously, so I took the initiative to ask what was troubling you. I have concocted a strange poison. You might not be able to endure it. You could die. Yet I say, without you, I would have already died. I did everything they wanted, to make them happy. I even made up a lot of stories. One day after a long time, the poison master seemed to be deciding something important. To compete, the two masters use my body to prove their abilities to each other. So I am determined to survive, and cultivate feelings with them. They couldn't kill me. I worked hard to please them. The poison master has a half-brother, a twin brother, who is also a celestial master. If I get poisoned by the poison master, the celestial master will help me detoxify, but I will only be saved when I'm close to death. It will take hundreds of trips back and forth before it stops. Xiao Han then reached out to Manhua. He held her hand to offer comfort. Xiao Han also knew that Sister Manhua was doing this for his own good. At this moment, Manhua felt much better. Then Xiao Han began to tell the story of becoming a disciple. The next second, a tear unconsciously fell. Then she started crying like a child who had made a terrible mistake. I clearly fear that you will be hurt. I just hope you can be happy. But now I feel like an unnecessary burden. Hearing about the maniac's kindness made me realize things weren't that simple. Xiao Han seriously said, if I don't become a villain, how could I possibly deal with him, or even protect you? Hearing this, the woman began to tremble. There, I killed demons and the 4 devils. Knew these people were all evil and deserved to die, but she feared someone would take revenge on Xiao Han. Xiao Han continued, I killed the 4 great evildoers. Those 2 maniacs will definitely hunt me down relentlessly. A bad person now. I've even been one for a long time. The poison demon of the 4 great evildoers is my master, and I killed the leaders of the Grey Blood sect and the 5 Venom sect. The sect leader went to Chang'an to bring Tanyu back. Then, Xiao Han's lips suddenly curled up. It seemed like she was enjoying the concern from someone, but it made Manhua furious. Was what her sister said really that funny? Then, Xiao Han slowly said something that shocked Manhua. Sister, I'm all ready. Xiao Han will always be that kid who can't hold the sword steady. Even after being taught many times, he's still that clumsy kid. Even when he scolds him, he thinks it's a joke. Manhua noticed that Xiao Han was unresponsive. She asked angrily, are you even listening? You have been kind since you were young. I feel this path isn't right for you. And yet, Manhua doesn't know. Xiao Han is no longer like he was in his youth. In Manhua's memories. Then she teased, are you ready to hear your sister nag? Xiao Han smiled slightly. As soon as Manhua sat down, her first words were, Manga, I'm very worried about you. You know how dangerous this road is. Xiao Han replied, not busy. The guardian perceptively said, there's also an ostrich in the valley. Go take a look by yourself. After the 2 exchanged greetings at the door, Manhua walked over to Xiao Han. You have eliminated 2 of the 4 great villains. Then Xiao Han nonchalantly said that the underworld of Chang'an will also be ours in the future. The guardian looked at Xiao Han in disbelief at this information. Each piece of news would shake the heavens and the earth. At this moment, a gentle female voice asked, are you busy? Who is this person? Xiao Han smiled and said, I am your uncle. The guardian next to him noticed that the weather was getting cooler. So he called everyone inside to look for something. A man's scream suddenly echoed from inside the room. You said you killed the lecher and the demon. Han smiled and introduced herself as the cold-faced ghost, Deshan. You don't need to be formal when you speak. Xiao Han found this name quite familiar. After a moment, Xiao Han remembered that this person was the only one who had helped the sword dance group against the Grey Bloods. At this time, the boy asked his father, that they still have living relatives. The kind husband watched this warm scene, and it touched the softest part of his heart. Han took the initiative to salute the big man, saying, I am Qin Xiao Han. The big man returned the greeting, saying, I am Qin Bandmaster. I have heard many things about you. The next second, Eunhai tightly embraced Tanyu, calling out her old name with ease. Eunhai held her tighter and tighter, afraid that letting go of the person in front of her would make them leave again. This scene also filled the 2 orphaned girls with hope. Tanyu trembled and asked in a low voice, is it sister? That barely audible, sister, captured Eunhai's full attention. With tears streaming down, she tentatively asked, are you Tanyu? At that moment, Tanyue's tears burst forth, as if expressing all the grievances she'd endured over the years. Countless things she wanted to say, but all that came out was, Manga, you're still alive. For the first time, Xiao Han's gaze was so tender and soft. In that moment, like a child, he hugged Eunhai. Even those seasoned wanderers of the martial world couldn't stop their tears from flowing. Various memories turned into a voice calling her back to reality. She looked at the woman in front of her, wanting to cry first. Xiao Han cautiously called out, Eunhai. The words hadn't even left his mouth, when Eunhai immediately embraced him. To obtain these women, they were willing to eliminate all the members of the sword dance class. However, Xiao Han escaped this calamity because she had gone out after arguing with her sister. When she returned, she discovered countless bodies on the ground and a bowl of already cold noodle porridge. From then on, Xiao Han still had a hometown. But once again, she remained unmarried. The first time he held a sword, he was so cautious, afraid of hurting others. He even intentionally hurt himself, just to see how worried his sisters would get. Life is full of surprises. The Tortoise Bloods learned that the beauty of the sword dance class women was the most beautiful in the world, but he was also taken in by a popular sword dance troupe. It made Xiao Han feel the warmth of a family. He still remembers the first time his sister carried him on her back. As a little man, Xiao Han outwardly showed reluctance, but the warmth in his heart grew wildly the moment he was lifted. Xiao Han looked at the woman in front of him. Suddenly, countless thoughts flooded into his mind. He recalled his childhood. At that time, Xiao Han was an orphan. Not only did he not starve to death, but before Xiao Han could enter the room, a woman in red came out from inside. At this moment, a man nearby spoke up, urging his wife to hurry. The woman quickly ran towards Xiao Han. In the next moment, she directly threw herself into Xiao Han's arms. A sense of familiarity arises from the heart. But all the people nearby are strangers. And where did so many children come from? Then the guardian urged Xiao Han to quickly go inside. He said there was a surprise for him. 7 or 8 people swarm out. Xiao Han's eyes widen in shock. How can there be so many? At this moment, the guardian happily greets Xiao Han. Xiao Han sees the guardian. The second junior sister laughed. Is he here too? Xiao Han led the 3 women to Xianhua Tower. Second junior sister recalls that this is where the sword dance class used to be. Then she murmurs with countless thoughts, wondering where the senior sisters from the sword dance class have gone. The next second, the door opens, and finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. The next day, Xiao Han brought the 3 women back to his hometown, Shihei Road. The second junior sister sighed at how much things had changed here. Xiao Han agreed, saying that he too felt very unfamiliar when he first returned. Then he asked the junior sister if she remembered Daokuan. This group has also seen my ultimate skill. I have no choice but to do this. But in the end, reason prevailed. After all, these people are my beloved friends and family. Everyone saw Xiao Han smile slightly, resulting in a violent explosion. This battle has revealed too much. Only by eliminating all witnesses can we clean up. Xiao Han suddenly turned to look at the people on the shore. Everyone instinctively swallowed hard, and become stronger. Then Xiao Han asked the pervert where the boss of the evildoers, the madman, was. But at this moment, the pervert was already stiffening, and Xiao Han sighed that this death came too quickly. The next second, he unleashed charm towards the pervert. Psychological warfare is especially important in combat. And the basic rule of psychological warfare is to instill fear in the opponent. Always conceal your strength from others. The final trump card can only be known by oneself to be considered a retreat. Only then can one go further. A click sounded. Then it split in two. The pervert with the severed arm collapsed, losing the will to fight. In this battle, Xiao Han gained a lot of experience. At that moment, Xiao Han finally landed. He bent down to pick up the treasured sword. The second junior sister by the ground exclaimed at how terrifying Xiao Han's strength was. His subordinates also began to hold a sense of awe toward Xiao Han. Xiao Han twisted the weapon. In the next second, a tragic scream pierced the sky, finally triggering a massive explosion. A few people in the distance were barely able to stand due to the aftershocks. As the smoke cleared, they saw the full moon firmly embedded in the ground. Countless sword energies converged into a fire dragon, shooting straight into the sky. But as soon as it touched the full moon, the fire dragon instantly dissipated. Yet the speed of the full moon did not slow down. It charged straight down. He looked up and found that Xiao Han was already 10 meters in the air. Xiao Han used the force of his descent to suddenly throw down the weapon in his hand. At this moment, the full moon drew a perfect arc in the air. Feeling the approach of death, the pervert spared no expense to call for help. Using a forbidden technique, the last time they saw a full moon was when the 4 great villains were competing for rankings. But now the monster he has trained can actually merge weapons into one. Xiao Han disappeared from his original position in the next second. The pervert searched for a long time. Suddenly, he heard movement above his head. A loud click is heard. In the next second, the 2 weapons fit together perfectly. It seems that this is how the weapon was meant to be. Then, swirling toxic smoke began to gather around the weapon. The color demon realizes something is wrong. In the next second, he was knocked back, keeping a safe distance. Now he suspected that Xiao Han was about to use poison. Either that or he was already poisoned. Xiao Han aligns the weapon's hilt, with both hands twisting in opposite directions. He laughed and said, "So what?" Xiao Han walked straight to the pervert. The pervert looked at the weakest part of Xiao Han with a lewd smile. Xiao Han drew the crescent twin daggers given by his master. The pervert knew that Xiao Han was the disciple of the poison master. The next second, the roof of the building collapsed with a bang. The massive cloud of dust divided the battlefield. Xiao Han walked toward the pervert. He said that one of the 4 great evils, the demon, died right here. But the pervert didn't take his words seriously. Seizing the moment, the pervert unleashed an immortal slash. Xiao Han barely managed to block it by gathering his true energy. But the building was shaken by tremendous force. The two started fighting faster and faster. Adrenaline surged through their brains. Will they stop? The pervert heard this, and slowly walked forward, then his aura suddenly changed. The next second, before Xiao Han could react, he stabbed directly. Ao Han was stabbed to death by the pervert. In the end, they found a rooftop to take a short break. Everyone had gathered by the shore at this moment. Xiao Han said, if you keep running away, they will keep chasing you, only by confronting me head-on. The next second, the pervert slashed down with his sword, but Xiao Han blocked it. What followed was a battle where only two beams of light could be seen exploding on the water's surface. In just a few seconds, they had already exchanged 1,000 moves. The pervert instantly unleashed a sword aura, but it exploded before it even touched the boss. When the smoke cleared, they saw Xiao Han had blocked the attack. At this moment, Xiao Han realized the pervert's mind had already been disturbed by Granny Zhang. The two started moving simultaneously. Why has the murderous aura become so inspired? In the next second, the pervert turns and charges at the leader. Even Zhang Wo could be left out of this. The old lady next door also came out and said, "This is clearly mocking himself." The fleeing pervert jumps onto a tree branch at this moment. Then he turns to look at the leader. And the way the leader looks at him, makes his heart tremble. The pervert viciously says, "You just mentioned Grandma Zhang," then adds in wonder. The boss is very pleased with the current situation. Then he also wants to make use of the spear in hand. But suddenly he remembers that he has never been in love. He hasn't even thought about his failures in talking to women. He shouts angrily, "I will avenge Grandma Zhang next door." But the pervert escapes using their force. The leader emphasizes that they must shout the woman's name, Cui Fun. "I want to avenge you. I will avenge Jianguo. I will avenge Xiao Fang." At the same time, they must shout the name of their beloved mother in the name of revenge. At this moment, the pervert suddenly arrives. The leader shouts, "Now, throw the spears at him." The crowd behind him simultaneously throws their javelins. There are bursts of sighs. Looking back, the leader said to Xiao Han, "Get ready, everyone. Wait for the pervert to arrive." Everyone ambushes with long spears. In that instant, the demon of lust felt as if needles were piercing his scalp. This poison actually contains narcotics. The pervert is desperately trying to escape. Xiao Han is chasing after him with all her might. In the straw by the lake shore, at a distance of 3 meters, it suddenly exploded. The demon of lust struck with a palm. He tried to use the wind from his palm to dispel the poison, but the poison seemed to have a will of its own and evaded entirely. It slipped into his body from all sorts of tricky angles. The pervert Xiao asked Xiao Han why he brought these madmen to torment him. Xiao Han did not respond. He only revealed a charming smile. The next second, the dragon fruit sword charged forward in a bizarre posture. His fingertips surged with lightning-like force. Then the sword energy surged towards Huang Zhong. The fierce sword energy from earlier was easily dissipated by Xiao Han's Han. At this moment, Huang Zhong drew a large fire dragon sword from behind. He then drew his bow and arrow. With a tearful tone, he said he could finally take revenge for Diao Chan. He discovered Huang Zhong appearing on the roof. At this moment, his heart was truly racing like a stampede of horses. Huang Zhong drew his bow and gathered strength. The next second, a phoenix cry shot out. The furious lecher wanted to directly slay this group of lunatics. A wooden sword flies in from afar. The pervert lightly jumps, elegantly dodging. But behind him, Makai was seriously injured. When the lecher raised his head, wishing to devour the pervert alive, the pervert starts to take Guan Yu seriously. But Guan Yu rides his horse Juying swiftly past the side. Only hearing Del say, "Bring another pot of wine." While the pervert is still confused, he swung his 40-meter light kiss. The lecher barely dodged this sudden attack, and severed the green dragon crescent blade. Guan Yu saw his treasured sword broken, suddenly startled, and shouted at the pervert in an operatic tone, "The child's life is here." The lecher was in disbelief. Guan Yu shouted, "I come to avenge Cishi." In an instant, the lecher doubted his own ears, and countless ropes with darts shot out from inside. In his mind, the pervert had already cursed Xiao Han's entire family, but he had no choice but to use his weight technique to quickly drop to the ground. At that moment, the sound of horse hooves approached. A green-hatted, red-faced man on horseback appeared. The demon realized something was wrong, had no choice but to push off the nearby building, making himself fly backward. The pervert was about to turn and flee, when a nearby window creaked open, directly accelerating towards these civilians, wanting Xiao Han to pay a bloody price. But the next second, the civilians knelt down and pulled the grass ropes beside the wooden barrels. In an instant, the wood revealed a blue flower. 20-24 bullets neatly fired towards the demon, but the pervert screamed and slapped his butt. Upon hearing this, the two looked at the pervert speechlessly. The pervert, seeing Xiao Han chasing closely behind, mocked him, saying, "With your camel-like lightness skills, you dare to provoke me?" At this moment, the pervert noticed a crowd of commoners gathered ahead. A violent explosion kicked up dust around them. When the smoke cleared, they discovered it was the sword aura from Xiao Han. Before a few people could react, Xiao Han flew out again. The two shouted their thanks to the master. They didn't even know what they were supposed to do, but the pervert immediately locked onto his target. The three of them felt uneasy under his murderous gaze. The next second, a sword aura shot down. In an instant, the previous revolving lantern appeared before them. This is enough to prove how fast the duel between the two was. At this moment, the pervert also knows he can't rely on strength. Only in speed does he have the advantage. In the next moment, all that can be seen is a flash of red. The three people outdoors saw the pervert rush out. Faced with such incredible speed, Xiao Han can only defend unilaterally. After a hard time finding a flaw to attack, he was easily evaded by the pervert's strange movements. And the most notable was the wine glass shattering on the ground. The accessories leaning against the table were also shaken in front of him. The Fiend of Lust seized the moment and swung down, but Xiao Han easily dodged it. The Fiend of Lust, known for his speed, vanished the next second. A red flash erupted in the arena. Xiao Han never expected them to mock the pervert like that. By now, the pervert was already filled with rage. How dare a mere rep be so arrogant? Suddenly, the Fiend of Lust froze. The wine glass flew up in an instant. Xiao Han didn't want to argue this time. Just then, someone outside the window suddenly shouted, "We've already set a trap for the pervert. If you obediently take off your pants, we'll spare your life. But tonight, you must serve me well. I'll give you a good reward tonight." Xiao Han thought about everything that could happen, and felt a wave of disgust. At that moment, the pervert angrily asked Xiao Han why, as a disciple of the poison demon, he wanted to kill the four villains. "Do you plan to become a hero and then kill your master?" Xiao Han faced the pervert among the four villains alone, yet calmly sat aside. But the next thing the pervert said almost made Xiao Han lose control. The pervert looked at Xiao Han and sighed lightly. Then, in a raspy voice, he said, "Seeing that you have such a nearly perfect body." He raised his knife to defend himself. In an instant, a long whip tightly wrapped around the man's neck. The powerful force yanked the man to the ground. Then, he stepped directly on the man's shoulder. He angrily demanded to know where the pervert was. All that could be heard were the sounds of iron clashing. When looking again, that person had already escaped. In the next second, Xiao Han appeared behind like a ghost. At that moment, an X-shaped sword aura was about to strike. Xiao Han had no choice but to give up the chase. The man wasted no time and directly swung his sword. Yet, Xiao Han was dodging while being struck down in one blow. At that moment, a fierce sword aura shot straight at Xiao Han. Taking advantage of the explosion's aftermath, the newcomer threw out all the hidden weapons. So he quickly rushed towards the dart's trajectory. He saw a red light quickly escaping on the rooftop. Ultimately, it escaped into a small room. The man thought about how they dared to mock the master like this. At that moment, Xiao Han also entered the room. The next second, he lunged directly at the two of them. But at that moment, a dart flew in quickly from a distance. Xiao Han reacted swiftly. He dodged to block. At the same time, he noticed the direction of the dart. He continued to curse and walked quickly. However, the three women felt that even if it was acting, was it really okay to tease the lecher like this? On stage, the lecher suddenly turned around and said, "Who should I teach a lesson to first?" He then bit his finger and looked at Xiao Han and the madman with a charming expression. What a truly unlucky guy. The actor playing the lust demon shouted, "Everyone shut up." Then the lust demon performed a signature move. Immediately after, with charm, they said, "If you don't shut up, I'll come in." But the people in the audience weren't buying it. At this moment, a man in red burst in. He landed straight between the two. How could I, the lust demon, be missing in avenging the monsters? As soon as the audience heard it was the lust demon, they all shouted to hurry up. "So, it's the madman Senior. I wonder what brings you to me, Senior." The madman angrily said, "Did you kill the demon's concubine? I will chop you up, and then I will eat you. Chen Xiaohan is not as ugly as you." Then he pointed at Chen Xiaohan. He told him to hurry up. Chen Xiaohan angrily asked, "Who are you?" The performer pounded his chest, "I am the madman among the four great villains." Seeing Chen Xiaohan like this, the audience burst into laughter in an instant. The woman next to him couldn't help but laugh as well. Only then did Xiaohan realize why he had said that he offended himself. The actor shouted, "You're talking nonsense." Directly onto the stage. With a whoosh, the fan is opened. their sharp gaze fixed ahead. Solemnly, they said, I am Qin Xiaohan. Who are you? To hurry up and come out. On the other side of the stage, a figure holding a fan flashed into view. Look at this person, wearing the same white outfit as Qin Xiaohan. In the next second, a big leap. The performer coldly said, then I must apologize in advance. Xiaohan was taken aback. What does this mean? The performer didn't wait for Xiaohan to respond. Clearing his throat, Qin Xiaohan shouted, get your old dog. Seeing Xiaohan come down, the performers act even more energetically. The three women also express their admiration. The performer salutes Xiaohan. Master Gongying then says that he will start performing the play, The Tale of the Villain. Xiaohan smiles at the words, please begin. Xiaohan was awakened by the cheers outside. She saw that a stage had already been set up outside. The performers on stage are giving it their all. At this moment, the two women are also drawn to the scene. The junior sister exclaims that she wants to go down and take a look. Decided to use her sisters to lure out the pervert and take action first. She promised not to worry. I will protect you. At this moment, a subordinate came running in with a better idea. The next morning, after I came down the mountain, I wiped out one of the four villains, a demon. Now I'm being coveted by another villain, the lust demon. And the lust demon is notorious for being interested in both men and women. Entering the boudoirs of beautiful women is as simple as going home for him. Upon learning this, Xiaohan, in the end, he carried the poison demon away. At that moment, I realized, the madness in the medicine sage is unmatched by us, the four villains. Now I really want to see what kind of disciple they've trained. Ao Han was originally a disciple carefully trained by the four villains. At this moment, a figure in white suddenly descended from the sky, using an incredible method to save the leader of the martial arts alliance. When the poison demon questioned why he was being healed, the immortal doctor didn't waver in the slightest. He simply treated everyone present. The poison demon has a half-brother who is a twin. The legitimate immortal is even crazier and wilder than the poison demon. Once, the poison demon fell into a trap set by the Wulin alliance leader. At that time, both sides were badly injured, but the poison demon was hurt even more. It seems that man deliberately threw away his weapon during the fight. He made the demon drop its guard, then suddenly broke its neck. The man chuckled, saying it looks like the two of you have raised a monster. The disciple asked, what do you mean by magic immortal? Looking at the demon's corpse again, a giant figure had appeared beside it. At that moment, a disciple reported that the one who killed the demon was a young man. His weapons were a pair of daggers and an iron fan. The man pondered for a moment. The demon's corpse had no wounds. One of them sighs, even in death, this demon remained strikingly beautiful. A sudden rustling sound came from afar. The two hurriedly knelt in the direction of the sound. A sound of something cutting through the air rang out. This is utter nonsense. The leader glances down, then shyly says, you still deny being the grand pervert? The next second, the whole tavern is filled with screams. In the deep mountains, the two find the hidden demon's corpse. They saw that Xiaohan's body was covered in signs of battle. The leader saw so many wounds, and knew he had been through countless battles. Could it be that you are the legendary mad demon? Xiaohan angrily approaches the leader. Who are you calling the lecherous leader? A tremor in the heart. Could it be a wrong judgment? Xiaohan stood up. The others all stared ahead, frightened and apprehensive. The four great villains had just quieted down for a while before coming to my territory to act recklessly. Afterward, they sent their men to check on this lecherous duke. That's why this scene happened. Xiaohan was furious. You lunatic. The younger brother firmly said yes. This person has the strength to take down one of the four great villains. He even deliberately approached beautiful women. Moreover, those women ultimately followed the lecherous duke. The local tyrants also know that the lecher is the best at gossiping. It is said that the lustful duke brought wine to pursue the demon duke's disciple, but he happened to encounter the demon duke. So the two of them started fighting. They even destroyed a famous building. The local bully asked for confirmation if it was the lustful duke. A few men with tattoos walked in. They finally stood in front of Xiaohan. One of them, who looked like a small leader, greeted Xiaohan, saying, greetings, Grand Duke of Lust. It turns out that Xiaohan's entire battle with the demon in the Chang'an underworld had been witnessed. They reported it to the local underworld. At this moment, Xiaohan thought, if he were to tell his masters, I killed the demon alone, what will their reaction be? Just then, the door behind me suddenly opened, and soaks in the hot spring, letting out a long sigh. Although he sustained many injuries from the battle with demons, most of them have already healed, but soaking in the hot spring works even better. In the martial world, whether black or white, no one will welcome us. After saying this, Xiaohan stood up to go rest, letting the women continue their meal. Xiaohan removes his clothes. and then let the poison seep into my 108 death points. They even threw me into the pit of 1,000 poisons to torture me, but unexpectedly, I managed to endure it all. Shanghai warned the three women not to reveal that we are disciples of villains in the future. Objects. I was the one he initially used for testing. The three women displayed looks of astonishment. At that time, he had me trapped on a wooden board, using silver needles to seal 612 blood points. The junior sister beside her asked if the poison demon Duke is also a very terrifying existence. Xiao Han said about the poison demon, it's even more terrifying than you know. He dedicated his life to the study of poisons, and he would use living people as test subjects. The next night, a few people gathered again, to discuss their future plans. At this time, the second junior sister asked how Xiao Han became the disciple of the poison demon Duke. Xiao Han replied that he was taken away in a moment of greed. The two women were completely mind-blown. Xiao Han then forcefully flung it down. The demon was thrown straight to the ground. It twitched and convulsed in a strange posture. Now, only three villains remain in the martial world. It saw Xiao Han's palm. Xiao Han had grabbed the demon's slender neck. His hand clamped down like a vice. In the next second, there was a crisp sound. The demon instantly stopped resisting. It wanted to finish off this reckless being with one strike. But Xiao Han suddenly let go of the sword hilt, letting the weapon fly toward the demon. The demon barely dodged the unexpected attack. When it turned its head again, it tightly locked Xiao Han's weapon with a long whip, then forcefully flung it backward. Xiao Han lost all momentum. He flew straight forward. The demon made its move at that moment, waiting for the smoke to clear. Xiao Han was knocked back several meters. Xiao Han said, "Your sinful body will be left to my master to test for poison." These words completely enraged the demon. At this moment, the demon looked as if it had seen a devil. The movement technique is the celestial talisman of the healing immortal. To avoid close combat, the demon didn't care about anything else, and directly smashed down in front of it. He also realized that Xiao Han had been hiding his strength before, but for the first time, Xiao Han revealed such a chilling smile. In the next second, he vanished on the spot, rushing towards the demon at an incredible speed, and evading its attacks with a bizarre movement technique. But this time, it only sliced off the demon's hair ornament. The blade's energy showed no signs of dissipating. It shot straight towards the sword pillar behind. The demon glanced at the sword pillar behind him, feeling a hint of fear, making Xiao Han's blade aura seem tiny. But it was this tiny blade aura that forced the demon to break out in a cold sweat. The next second, the storm suddenly shattered, and the blade aura shot straight ahead. After steadying his feet, he instantly unleashed two blades of poisonous energy. This time the demon didn't dare be careless. It immediately launched an attack. A massive red storm surged forth. At that moment, a black figure appeared alongside the purple light. The next second, the demon could hardly believe its eyes. It looked as if Xiao Han had become a different person. The aura surrounding him had become extremely unfamiliar. Xiao Han took a step back. The demon thought the poison master had made a move. He immediately gathered all his inner energy to resist. Even so, he was blown away by the immense force. The demon lamented after not seeing him for 10 years. This poison demon is still so powerful, and the place where it collapsed happens to be where Xiao Han is located. Thick smoke filled the entire scene. The demon lamented that the disciples of the poison master were too weak. The next moment, two streams of toxic gas shot out from the smoke. Seeing such powerful poison, the monsters have also noticed this situation. In an instant, they whip the long whip to the last support point. Then they suddenly pull it back. The entire building instantly loses its support. It collapses with a roar. Xiao Han raised both blades to defend. In that instant, he resisted with his knife. In such a situation, Xiao Han can only prevent the chaos from being obstructed at the sidelines. The nearby buildings have already fallen into disrepair. In this situation, one can still laugh. Feeling a hint of danger, the demon decided to end things quickly. In the next moment, the white dragon whip turned red again, accompanied by lightning. Facing this sudden attack, looked at Xiao Han and sighed. No wonder he is one of the four great villains. Both his combat skills and his aura are exceptional, but this kind of battle is truly a game of wits. The demon still thought Xiao Han was foolish, drowning the battlefield. The three girls had never seen their master use this move. The demon was quite surprised at this moment. It saw that Xiao Han actually still had the strength to support himself. The demon, bearing the appearance of royalty, trying to close the distance to render the long whip ineffective. But this little scheme was already completely seen through by the demon. Suddenly, the white dragon whip emanated a bone-chilling aura. Then the demon violently charged towards itself. Dragon smoke immediately surged. The demon lashes at Xiao Han several more times. It seems he's blocking and counterattacking all of them. But strangely, his body is still getting wounded in different areas. Xiao Han is instantly panicked, charging at the demon, charging straight at Xiao Han's face. Xiao Han forcefully uses his left hand to swiftly spin his entire body to dodge. But even so, his right arm still gets slashed by the whip. This barely allowed him to stand firm. At that moment, Xiao Han realized how formidable the four great villains were. The monsters didn't give him a chance to catch his breath. Once again, a long whip was swung rapidly. As if it had a soul of its own, the monster unleashed the 18 styles of awe. This one struck heavily on Xiao Han. Xiao Han cried out in pain and was sent flying out. Xiao Han borrowed a backflip, and then thrust the curved knife into the floor, left the original position early. In the next few moments, the monster remained unmastered, but the surrounding buildings had collapsed completely. Meanwhile, Xiao Han lightly landed in front of the monster. You, a reckless young man, dare to provoke like this. Xiao Han sneered, do you really need the master to step in for a waste like you? The demon was instantly enraged, and unleashed a powerful strike towards Xiao Han. But Xiao Han seemed to know in advance. It's been many years since we last met. Xiao Han told the demon to stop calling him. The master is not here. These demons don't believe that. If the poison old demon isn't here, and the only one the four great demons respect, is the medical immortal. The three women were shocked to hear he was a disciple of the poison demon. Although their master is also one of the four great demons, the poison demon is in existence a level stronger than their master. Then the demon called for the poison demon to appear. A look of astonishment. Is this a double crescent blade? You are a disciple of the poison old demon. But what the demon didn't know was, Xiao Han is still the disciple of the medical immortal. Xiao Han seized the moment and leaped onto the roof. The demon looked at Xiao Han with admiration. You are the second one to escape from me. Xiao Han's hand grasped the handle of the knife. The demon looked at Xiao Han's weapon. It countered with a palm strike as well. The violent explosion sent Xiao Han flying backward. The demon didn't give Xiao Han a chance to catch his breath. It threw out the white dragon whip, ranked 10th on the weapon list. But Xiao Han dodged it with ease. Xiao Han kept staring at the demon, and burst out laughing. The demon thought he had completely conquered him with his handsome face. In an instant, Xiao Han unexpectedly struck with a palm. The demon reacted quickly. The demon didn't back down from returning to school. What a reckless kid. In the next second, he pressed his leg right next to Xiao Han. Then, in a high-pitched voice, he said, What? Do I have to kill you to make myself feel better? The hearts of the three women trembled. Meanwhile, Xiao Han continued pouring himself a drink. The demon swiftly appeared behind him. Xiao Han told it to get lost, saying its stench was already making him sick. The demon sneers and says, Is that really the case? Since you dare to mess with my disciple, this beauty will send you on your way. Upon hearing this, then angrily asks the three women who this man is. The eldest disciple, to protect Xiao Han, says this scoundrel suddenly grabbed a wine cup and wanted to drink with us sisters. I was just about to drive him away. Please don't worry, master. Seeing that Xiao Han still wouldn't run, the junior sister was extremely anxious. At that moment, the demon also arrived. The three women immediately knelt to pay their respects to the master. The demon looks at Xiao Han. The next second, a piercing sound came from the air. The junior sister urged Xiao Han to hide quickly. It's the master who has arrived. Xiao Han, however, remained still. Instead, he raised his wine cup and poured himself a drink. Junior sister didn't believe Xiao Han at all. She angrily said he was clearly slandering the master. Senior sisters, say something. But all the senior sisters lowered their heads in silence, as if they knew something. Xiao Han emphasized again, it's not just inner power. Even your vital essence can be drained as well. Moreover, the original name of this technique is the true rhythm demonic art. In the end, you'll lose your vitality, and turn into a skin and bones corpse. Only those with a pure body can cultivate the secret true jade divine art of our sect. The junior sister was shocked and asked, How do you, a man, know about our secret art? Xiao Han angrily replied, Do you not know that demons can absorb your inner power? The two women had never heard of such a thing. The two talked for a long time. From the pure sword dance class to apprenticeship, they also learned that their master was a demon among the four great evils. Xiao Han's next words shocked the three women. You should talk to your master. My nickname is Manga. I wonder if this young lady remembers that name. The junior sister suddenly looked flustered. She murmured, Could it be? Are you Brother Mao? Xiao Han bluntly said he was here to find a girl. The senior sister's gaze turned cold. She angrily said, What do you take us for? Xiao Han realized the misunderstanding. He quickly started to explain, I came from the stringed instrument in sword dance class. He might as well take a seat. After being invited, Xiao Han sat down casually. What are you here for, kid? What is the purpose? Xiao Han realized they might be disciples of demons. Xiao Han looked at the second junior sister, who didn't seem likely to have joined the sword dance class after I was abducted. The senior sister noticed that Xiao Han was staring at the second junior sister, and joked that since he was interested in the little sister, Xiao Han asked, can I practice with you? The senior sister sneered. It was the most submissive thing he had ever heard. The junior sister shyly said, Master doesn't allow us to approach adults. Hearing that their master forbade them from approaching adults, is that why she doesn't fit in? Xiao Han was taken aback. Hearing talk of sword dancing again, a boy, out of place, suddenly interrupted the conversation of the group. She told second junior sister to stay and drink with her before leaving. Second junior sister knew first senior sister's temper all too well, so she had no choice but to sit down. The youngest disciple curiously asked, Senior sister, was second senior sister always so aloof, and didn't she used to dance with swords? The senior sister looks up. It turns out to be the master's favorite second junior sister. The second junior sister says, the master is searching the whole mountain for the senior sister. The senior sister then shakes her half-full jug of clear wine, thinking to herself, all this time, she had never seen how any of the senior sisters had died. Could it be that the senior sisters were killed by the master? At this moment, another woman arrives. The woman coldly urges the senior sister to return to the mountain gate quickly. She only saw her senior sister frowning deeply. Have you seen how the previous senior sisters died? Didn't master say they were taken by the lust demon, one of the four evildoers? Or were they unfortunate enough to encounter powerful experts from the righteous path? The senior sister sighed deeply. The junior sister kept her eyes fixed on him. The senior brother, on the other hand, was thoughtfully staring at Jume. In the next second, he downed his drink. The junior sister watched her senior, who seemed different from usual. She asked worriedly if something had happened. The woman softly called out, Senior sister. Another girl got rejected by that gentleman. That's the 30th one. The senior sister across from her told the junior sister not to bother with it. Drink up. Even though she said that, a woman's voice suddenly interrupted. Young master, why are you drinking alone under the moon? Xiao Han, without turning his head, angrily told her to get lost. The woman was immediately humiliated and angry. She mumbled to herself and turned to leave. She had been here for a month, and still hadn't seen a hint of the demon's tricks. And Xiao Han had heard from her master. Every month, the demon devours a disciple. It's the moon, receiving the diluted essence. Xiao Han knew time was of the essence. She could only set off as soon as possible. In the Qinmei water tower of the underworld in Chang'an, Xiao Han leaned alone against the pavilion. Although he is a master, the demons won't pass on their skills. He only teaches those girls a bit of inner strength, so he can maintain his youth. Waiting for the right moment, just to get rid of them. He would also kill someone for lacking manners. In short, he kills if he wants to. It's completely up to him. In the end, Jianlang heard that someone in the underworld of Chang'an had seen the demon, and Xiao Han knew that this demon only took beautiful women as disciples. It had to be returned to the chef. If they lost their virtue, they would be cruelly killed. He would kill someone for being too beautiful. I wouldn't dare. He even swore that if you were to fight the demon duke, he would certainly go through fire and water for you. Xiao Han then asked if anyone knew where the demons were. The group discussed for a while. Xiao Han's expression turned cold. The leader of the Tai Long Association. Do you want to see me fight demons? Is that why you deliberately said that? Tai Long was shocked at once. He repeatedly said. Xiao Han's expression changed upon hearing it was the four great villains. Suddenly, he felt uneasy. His master is also one of the four great villains, the Poison Lord. Extremely ruthless. He even uses living people for experiments. As if he wanted to say something, but the words got stuck in his throat. Xiao Han noticed this phenomenon. Let the leader of the Tai Long Association help, but it's no problem. The subordinate only knows that some of the lowest level warriors were taken away by one of the four great villains, the Demon Lord. After Xiao Han unified the 5 major gangs, the first thing he did was gather all the bosses to inquire. Who knew about the extermination of the Jinwu sect over 20 years ago? It turns out Xiao Han had been missing his sisters from the past. Tai Long was hesitant, keeping her virginity, but also took in hundreds of palace maids, and taught them all of her skills. She could be called the bane of women. How could one of the 4 great evils do such good deeds? She is the only woman among the 4 great villains. At over 80 years old, she is called a demoness by the world. But her skin and figure are like that of a young girl. It's said that in order to maintain this state, she not only refrains from men. I can only blame myself for being so arrogant. I have no regrets in death. After several people worked together to kill the 5 poisons, they bowed to Xiao Han, but his face was filled with displeasure. The 5 venoms saw the beast, and immediately understood. It was the poison demon, one of the 4 fiends. The powerful toxin is unmistakable. I actually have a disciple of such a person. The 5 poisons never understood until death. That kid was clearly poisoned. Why is he still so full of energy? Xiao Han released all his malevolent energy outward. Instantly, a terrifying beast formed behind him. They then looked at the few people slowly walking towards them. With a voice choked with tears, they shouted, "That kid is about to die. What are you doing?" The group did not stop. Instead, they all drew their weapons. Wudu was confused by these people. That brat Dahan was poisoned by me. He is certain to die. What are you doing? Xiao Han then ordered the sword wolf, eagle, and Tai Long to kill the 5 poisons. The 5 poisons thought that Xiao Han must be insane from the poison. Immediately after, Tai Long expressed loyalty. He even admitted to sending assassins to kill his subordinates. He is willing to accept any punishment. Jianlang was also convinced. He is willing to submit. Xiao Han is testing us. He deliberately poisoned himself, to see how we would react. The eagles were the first to kneel, expressing their willingness to follow Xiao Han. Seeing that they still showed no reaction, there was a buzzing sound. A surge of malevolent energy surged from Xiao Han's body. The wounds also began to heal. The two suddenly realized. I feel completely drained. The pain keeps spreading. Xiao Han looked at the two behind him. He angrily asked, haven't you two decided yet? The two felt an invisible pressure. He let the 5 venoms fluid hit him. In the next second, his clothes were instantly burned. Blood started to flow as well. The 5 venoms burst into laughter. It became Xiao Han. They would act in such a treacherous way, but then a thought came to mind. First, he drew another knife with a backhand, and slashed down faster, but the dark soul immediately had another half. The sword wolf's fist wind came rushing in like an explosion. Xiao Han was sent flying directly. I didn't expect the sword wolf's physical skills to be so fierce. Wudu seized the opportunity to shoot out his bodily fluid rapidly. An Hun also followed Xiao Han but didn't expect them to be so despicable. Dark Soul and 5 poisons share the same opinion. Wait for an opening. The two of them rushed out immediately. The sword wolf knows that if this continues, he will definitely lose. He can only open the door and fight to the death. Xiao Han's attacks were relentless, like a torrential downpour. Among the few of them, Sword Wolf fought the bravest. Now he is at a disadvantage. In a one-on-one fight, I definitely cannot match Xiao Han. Now I can only wait for Sword Wolf to create an opening to take action. They saw that Xiao Han easily blocked the attack. At this point, several people began to take Xiao Han seriously. Xiao Han took the initiative to attack. What seemed like a light weapon directly cut a gash in the heavy sword. Moreover, the immense force made it difficult for the Sword King to withstand. With a fierce strike, he swung down. Xiao Han also quickly drew his dagger. Everyone looked over. Xiao Han had been pierced by the sword light, but as the smoke cleared, it was agreed beforehand that the swords are without eyes. If there is death or injury, it has nothing to do with me. The sword wolf said this, and raised the heavy sword above his head, and die together. At this moment, the leader of the North Wind Sword Wolves laughed heartily. The last time he was this happy, was when his father was killed. Then I will have a match with Xiao Han. But Xiao Han noticed this. Since you're all exchanging glances, I'll give you 2 choices. One, you can come at me one by one and get beaten. The other, you can all come at once. Xiao Han was immediately infuriated and laughed, straightforwardly saying, enough of the nonsense. Let's get straight to the point. The others exchanged looks. They started to give each other glances. Xiao Han sighed. Ultimately, you just want to occupy a part of the West Black Road. The nearby Dark Soul sect angrily said, kid, everyone here is your senior. How can you be so rude? Moreover, the Grey Blood sect used to buy a lot of poison from me. Now I've lost a major investor. Now I need to make a deal with you. I want to trade for Forget-Me-Not. I wonder what you think about this. But control is even more important. Xiao Han also agrees with this point. The old man continued, saying that in the past, the blood-flowing gates supplied Forget-Me-Not to various places. But now it has been cut off. Our income from martial poison has decreased significantly. Truly, the younger generation is formidable. The atmosphere shifted to focus on the youth. Do you really think the assets of the blood-flowing gate belong to you? If you want to stand firm, not only must your martial skills be good. The old hustler quickly began to flatter. Congratulations, Master Chen, for taking down the blood sect. You've controlled the Western Black Road. Xiao Han urged the old man to speak his mind. The old man smiled awkwardly. The man finally took the main seat. They all stared at the man intently, but no one spoke. Let's introduce ourselves. The man spoke first. I am Qin Shaohan. The protector said that he would invite the leader over. 10 minutes later, the man in white robes slowly descended. They didn't expect someone so young to dominate the West Black Road. Moreover, he showed no mercy in front of his seniors. A few people didn't expect to be outmaneuvered by that spear-wielding kid right from the start. We need to teach him a good lesson later. However, the elder Wu Du couldn't help but chuckle. He invited everyone to take their seats first. After all 5 sat down, the leader of the Talon gang noticed something was wrong. The other 3 gangs were also taken aback. Inside the room, there were only 6 chairs. At this moment, the helper Tyren suddenly remembered that only the highest-ranking general would make their entrance last. The bodyguard mentioned that the overlord will only have 6 chairs on the 2nd floor. Everyone's trusted subordinates can only wait on the 1st floor for a while. A few people's faces turned dark, but they could only follow the bodyguard upstairs. As soon as they entered the room, Northern Wind Sword Wolves, 5, the Poison Sect, Shadow Soul Sect, Eagle Sect all arrived at the man's territory with their trusted followers. According to the rules of the Overlord Assembly, each could only bring 10 trusted followers inside. They all entered the building one after another. They are discussing how to eliminate the man. Several of them decide to unite for a meeting of tyrants. When the time comes, suppress that brat. If he doesn't obey, kill him on the spot. The next day, the 5 major clans gathered at the Tai Long assembly. He raises the knife to point at himself. On the surface, the man appears to be a delicate scholar holding a feast. Yet with just one strike, he can kill a gang leader. He even boasts about wanting to dominate the entire underworld. But the 5 major criminal forces have already gathered together. The assassin thought that revealing the employer would ensure his survival. But the man pressed the knife closer to the assassin. Faced with someone who wanted to kill him, how could the man hold back? The assassin knows what the man means. He closed the fan. The assassin sensed the intent to kill. He instinctively revealed that the employer was Tyrone in Linha City. There's a bounty of 10,000 taels of silver for me to kill you. The man quietly noted down this name. But the man said you are honored to be on this fan. It turns out that every time the man kills a villain, he writes the name on the fan. Now there are already 9,999 names. Seeing that the killer refuses to speak, and coughed up a mouthful of blood, the man opened the fan, and asked the assassin's name. The killer doesn't understand what this is about. Is he going to make a tombstone for me? The man said there was no need to waste any more time. In the next second, the man suddenly swung the fan. The assassin was instantly sent flying backward, crashing directly into the rock behind. Then, he felt his spine break. The assassin felt his vital energy surging. Now, as long as he stopped, the assassin would die instantly. The assassin's full-strength strike was once again easily blocked by the man. He had already exchanged 30 blows with the man, but no matter how fierce the attacks, all were blocked by a single fan. The gap in internal power between the two was too vast. Every time the man blocked an attack. From the start, he never took me seriously, but as the second-ranked assassin, he's certainly no ordinary person. The assassin suddenly vanished on the spot. When he reappeared, he hurriedly pulls out the second-ranked weapon, the white jade fan. He suddenly pushes it downward. The flying daggers, which had just rushed forward, instantly lose their momentum. They all fall to the ground. The assassin just realized his foolishness. The timing was perfect. The assassin wildly swings his weapon. Countless flying daggers shoot into the sky. Faced with the flying daggers, the man calmly withdraws. He looked up. That's when he saw the man above him. The assassin suddenly started laughing. He then pulled out a strange weapon. The weapon turned red and emitted a buzzing sound. He then pulled out a 3-edged dagger, ready to kill the man. The next second, the assassin leaped, and threw all his hidden weapons. The assassin landed only to find all the hidden weapons had missed. At this moment, a voice came from above. The cook suddenly remembered he was still making something. He hurried back. The assassin from above saw that only the man was left in the courtyard, and the strong smell of alcohol was noticeable even from there. The assassin realized this was a good opportunity to strike. You've now surpassed me. In the end, the woman completely disappears with the man's relieved smile. The man also wonders where the sisters have gone. The cook, standing by, marvels that the man's sword dance is even better than the one before. Hearing the compliment, the man just smiles it off. Both pause, deep in thought. A few minutes later, the two salute each other. At this moment, the woman gradually fades away with the falling cherry blossoms. What a great dream. She draws her sword. The sword strikes out like a white snake, darting towards the man. Her fierce and powerful attack is elegantly deflected by the man. As the bout ends, they both retreat to appropriate positions. They then mutually restrain each other. Blossoms accompany the sword light rushing toward the man, but the man seems to know in advance and easily dodges. In the next second, a woman appears in front of him. Her graceful figure is accentuated even more by the sword robe. The woman immediately shifts the dynamic from defense to offense. The blade traced a perfect arc. The man keeps accelerating, as if he is racing against someone. A red robe for sword dancing suddenly appears in the wind. In an instant, cherry. The man looked up at the starry sky. He then walked into the courtyard. He drew his twin crescent blades. The blades shimmered brilliantly under the moonlight. In the next moment, the man pointed his sword at the sky. The man, in a fit of enthusiasm, came to the courtyard, saying he would honor the agreement. The chef then remembered what the man had said about eliminating the blood gate. How about I perform a sword dance for you? Little did he know that the second on the killer's list had been observing him for quite some time. He thought to himself, this person clearly almost got assassinated. Yet now he drinks like a madman. What's most infuriating is that he actually called me a rat. What a damned guy. But the man invited him to sit and eat together. The protector was pleasantly surprised. This meant the troop leader had accepted him. He then found a spot and sat down cautiously. They chatted about everything until midnight. The man agreed with this plan, and instructed the guardian to handle the arrangements. At this moment, the cook brought over a basket of buns. The protector knew the two had known each other since childhood, so he voluntarily withdrew. In order to find out who was behind it, he asked the guardian if there was a way to investigate. He gathered the gang leaders together. The guardian suggested organizing the overlord meeting. At that time, all the gang leaders would bring their brides. The black figure slipped into an attic. The true master behind the scenes also marveled. Now things have become interesting. The long-dormant Overlord Society will be activated once again. The man was assassinated after dominating the West Black Road. The man observed this killing technique and made his decision. A shadow caught the man's attention. The speed was so fast that only the wind was felt. Yet the person was nowhere to be seen. To the man, it was just a small mouse. Hearing that he is a disciple of the medical immortal, there was a glimmer of hope. After some inner conflict, he was ready to speak. Just then, out of nowhere, a purple light appeared. It struck into the killer's brain. He couldn't move. The man asked who sent him, but the killer was only focused on wanting to die. The man claims to be the heir of the medical immortal. He can guarantee you won't die. The killer suddenly knelt down on the ground. He began to breathe heavily. The man slowly sheathed the knife. In those few seconds of sheathing the knife, the killer started to feel his body go numb. Seeing that the snake venom is ineffective, he decides to strike first. When the assassin bursts out with his sword, he still remembers to point his sword. The man adjusts his stance and swings his sword upward. The intense pain stimulates the assassin's senses. And the second brother had been killed. He started to get nervous. But the man has been immune to all poisons since he was young. Now, he is being tormented to the brink of death by the poison demon. The poisons of this vast world have long been ineffective against him. The smoke cleared, revealing the man unharmed. The assassin, however, had his throat slit by a single stroke, falling dead to the ground. Seeing the snake venom hadn't taken effect, like a dragon diving into the sea, he maneuvered wildly within the smoke. Meanwhile, the man stood still in the midst of the fog. The killer swiftly appeared behind the man. From the smoke came the sound of flesh tearing and a man's wails. He threw his burden out directly. When it was above the man's head, thick black smoke suddenly erupted. In an instant, it enveloped the man. The killer seized the opportunity and rushed in. The immense impact left the assassin trembling. Yet he remained completely unflustered. In another 2.5 hours, the snake venom will wreak havoc on the man's organs. Another assassin couldn't hold back. The man gripped the handle of his knife. At the moment the sword energy came, he drew his blade. A loud bang echoed. The man began to take the initiative. He dodged and appeared right in front of the assassin. The killer began to mock. This poisonous woman of the green snake should know how powerful she is. The man then ripped off the green snake. The killer instantly drew his sword. The sword energy filled with killing intent surged towards the man. The man in black says that our leader wants to join forces with you. The woman then takes out a note. Inside is a highly poisonous green snake. The green snake bites the man's injured arm, and starts to release toxins wildly. Jianlang personally sent gifts and letters. The woman next to him jogged over. First, he kneels on one knee. He presents the scroll with both hands. After the man receives the scroll, with a chilling smile in black, he claimed to be part of the Jianlang faction. And Jianlang is the underworld figure from the northern part of Shihe Road. I heard you took out the leader of the Hui Shuemen. You now control the northern part of Shihe Road. Everyone scattered in a panic. The figure in black stopped in front of the man. Nice to meet you. I wonder if you are the leader of the Crescent Moon gang. The man also openly admitted. The opponent was also skilled. The next day, when the man was out for a walk, a sudden figure appeared, causing the townspeople to stop and look. This person actually dared to wear all black on West Black Road, and was holding a sharp blade. This was the most relaxed he had been since coming to the underworld. Another gang, upon learning that the underworld was now leaderless, immediately sent an assassin. The strategist proposed sending the third-ranked assassin, Wu Ying. Although the cost was high, you must tell me in advance, so I can hide far away. The man couldn't help but smile. He laughed out loud. The two then started toasting each other. The man's casual response was exactly what an ordinary person would feel when hearing about the 4 great villains. Then the cook raised his glass and drank it down in one go. Then, smiling foolishly, he said, "It's great that you can come back. If your master comes, it is rumored that those few demons are very terrifying. One of them is a madman prince who would kill and slaughter cities over a single sentence. Another is a lecherous prince who targets pure and beautiful women. There is also a demon lord who can maintain her beauty at 100 years old. And there is the poison demon prince who uses people for live experiments. Nor influential. They had long since disappeared. One of the 4 great evildoers, the poison demon." The chef turned pale upon hearing that it was a disciple of the 4 great evildoers. His face instantly turned gray. "Everyone here is a desperado." The man paused for a moment when he heard the word sect. The cook quickly asked, "Your master must be from a prestigious school, right?" The man pondered for a long time. His 2 casual masters were neither prestigious. "The surrounding forces won't let you go." The man chuckled softly. It seemed the cook didn't know about power. The cook put down the meat bun in his hand. In a hurry, he asked, "Is your sect really that big?" With a simple expression, he said, "I remember you like buns." The man smiled for the first time. Then he poured the cook a drink. But the cook's purpose this time was to urge the man to leave quickly. "In this place, if you don't stir up trouble." The guard nearby hurriedly told the servant to dismiss him. "But you said to let the cook in. He is someone very important to me." After the cook came in, he placed all the prepared buns and almond cakes on the table, and had his subordinates spread the word widely. The reason he's doing this is to let the missing sword dance class sisters know that Crescent class has fallen. At that moment, a servant came to report that a cook wanted to see you. The woman seductively hands over a mysterious envelope, but inside is something squirming. After the man eliminated the grey blood gate of Shiha Road, he took control of the area. He also renamed Moonlit Tower to Crescent Class. The man's killing intent surged to the sky at this moment. "Speak up if you want to go to the afterlife." The noisy crowd fell silent in an instant. And the man was now fixated on one thought: when you're bored, kill them. And when you're bored again, kill them again. The man was instantly blinded by rage. 600 slashes, thief. The woman's blood sprayed everywhere instantly. The sect leader was left with only half a head and mangled limbs. The crowd of minor soldiers immediately started murmuring that you won't hear news about those women from the sword dance troupe from anyone else. The man looked confused. "Once those women get bored of me, I'll take care of them. If they get bored again, I'll take care of them again." The leader's heart trembled. He shook all over. "Is this disgusting remark about me, who rules here?" The leader lowered his head. "Tell the man, and you will surely achieve great things." The man remained unmoved. Instead, he stepped closer to the leader. He looked at the leader with a contemptuous gaze. "A disgusting object. The sect leader is still in the ancient city." The sect leader saw a man approaching with a knife. He began to plead loudly, "With your strength, join us." Intense pain spread throughout his body, and then he collapsed to the ground. The surrounding leaders were also poisoned one by one. In the end, everyone fell to death. Only the blood revival gate remains. It turns out he took an antidote. But since the man is a direct disciple of the poison demon, how could an ordinary antidote work? The sect leader was laughing one moment, but the next moment felt his throat clogging up. He had already sent someone to investigate the man beforehand, and knew he would gamble. So before coming here, he had taken an antidote. The man was still thinking about why he was so confident. The man used his sword dance to counter. The sword dance restrained the activation. Then a red mist flew out from the cuff. The sect leader saw that the man finally used poison, and revealed a triumphant smile. The woman's frustration erupted explosively. She then looked at her subordinates. Angry, she shouted, "Hurry up, take this person down." In the next second, 4 guardians charged at the man. And in the next second, the man appeared right behind him. This time, the man showed no mercy. He swung both blades directly. The leader was sent flying by the powerful impact. In the second before the blade made contact, the man suddenly vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a trace of red light. The sect leader was instantly shocked. Even at such a close distance, he managed to dodge. The man was taken aback. The sword dance class was his weakest point. He definitely wanted to find out, but the sect leader secretly drew his sword. Then, in an instant, he struck down. The sect leader realized the man was serious. He saw that the man's hand was already gripping the knife handle. At that moment, he panicked. He shouted, "Don't you want to know where the women from the sword dance class have gone? Is it beauty or wealth? Or is it status?" The man remained silent with a cold expression. In the next moment, he directly appeared in front of the sect leader. He warned the sect leader that once the nonsense was finished, he should leave, clearing a path straight to the grey blood sect leader. The sect leader saw the man's incredible strength, and grew wary of him. He put on a smile, and asked the man what he wanted. Only then did the crowd understand. As long as they stepped aside, they would not die. In the face of life and death, who cares about that big brother or sect leader nonsense? The next moment, everyone stepped aside. The crowd's fear had reached its peak. They were questioning where the leader and the captain were. Why haven't they come out to face the crowd ahead? The man coldly replied that if they didn't want to die, they should step aside. He only wanted to kill the leader of the Grey Blood sect. The man stares intently at the Blood Gate Master in the back, immediately followed by several quick movements. He cuts a bloody path. At this moment, the man resembles a devil. A man quietly asked if anyone was not afraid of death. The man is toying with the sword dance. The spray of wooden sword dance. A sound of blood and flesh splattering. Looking again at the man. The surrounding minions have all collapsed. Tonight is the night the Huishue sect will be annihilated. In the next second, the man vanishes from sight. As the master is still marveling at his speed, the man has already entered the crowd. While everyone is still in shock, the sisters in the sword dance class all rushed over in a panic. Now, hearing the sect leader call him by his old name, he instantly thought of the sisters. In the next second, he draws out both blades. Poisonous gas begins to emit from his body. It was originally Manga. "Come here, let your brother hug you." Manga was the name the man had in the sword dance class as a child. He still remembers. He accidentally fell and got a bit scraped while dancing with the sword. Immediately, a wave of laughter erupted. They all thought the man must have gone crazy from fear. At that moment, a hand was raised in the crowd. Suddenly, the crowd fell silent. At this time, the leader of the blood sect was staring intently at the man, but didn't think there would be nearly 500 people. But as long as the leader is taken down, these lackeys will naturally crumble. The crowd below saw a man actually wearing women's clothes to perform a sword dance. And this flowing red robe was specially designed to highlight the beautiful curves of the sword dancer. Custom made. When the man stepped outside and saw the countless black dots, his heart trembled. He expected a crowd. In my memory, the older sisters wore red robes, and said they would perform a sword dance for me when I grew up, but that day never came. They were wiped out by the blood replenishment sect. This outfit is something a martial artist would wear when going into battle, and the man knows that this clothing has a special significance. In the past, the sword dance troupe took in men whose parents had died, and taught them skills to survive. The next second, the guardian burst in, shouting that it was bad. It turned out that the Grey Blood sect was about to arrive, and many people were coming. The man put on a red robe. The guardian thought the man was scared silly. He tried to stop the leader, but the leader just flashed the sword, and the lieutenant dared not speak further. It was evening. The man was still calmly meditating and resting. Have them, regardless of gender or age. Anyone who can wield a blade, follow me tonight. We'll also execute those useless ones who fled and display their heads. A nearby lieutenant feared this would disturb morale. He warned them that if they wanted to deal with me, they should directly help him. The remaining soldiers quietly dragged the body away. Meanwhile, the man sat down and poured himself a drink. The leader of the Grey Blood sect summoned the chiefs about this matter. The next second, he was sent flying as if hit by a truck. And the man did all of this just for a group of women. The man looked at the remaining soldiers. He did not prepare to continue the killing. Instead, he ordered them to take the boss's body and leave, and forcefully threw him over. The seemingly reckless fat man was actually trying to take advantage of the man dodging to kill him. The man slowly raised his hand. The fat man never expected the man to strike directly. In a cold voice, he said, "I want everything from the blood gate." The fat man was taken aback. It was simply too humiliating. Summer directly mentioned breaking out. He casually grabbed his severely injured subordinate. "Join the blood return sect." We all listen. The man's next words left the fat man in disbelief. The man stared intensely at the fat man. The man before him exuded a poisonous aura. Most importantly, He hadn't yet drawn the sword at his waist. The fat man drew his broadsword, and asked what he wanted. All that could be heard was the sound of bones breaking. Behind him, several people had fallen, lying motionless on the ground. They had all turned into zombies. The fat man's expression turned cold. He immediately tensed up. Using the magic technique, he struck out again. He let out a muffled groan. He was sent flying backward. The man dodged a few times. He rushed directly under the remaining tree. He dodged the blade with a strange movement. At the same time, he struck with his palm. What seemed like a light strike directly dislocated the elbow outward. The man seized the moment, and the door was locked directly. The fat man looked at the man with a face full of mockery. With a furious roar, they all rushed out. When he was just 3 centimeters away from the man, the fat man's expression changed drastically. 2 figures humming a song appeared at the entrance. The man then let the guard go out, and closed the door. The guard was pushed outside the door. He was already fantasizing about the happy times after taking over. However, his subordinates searched for over 2 hours and still couldn't find the man, so he thought the man must have been too scared and escaped. The fat man also believed that the reputation of the Blood Gate had frightened the man away, but in the next second, and another leader followed along with the killing squad toward the moonlit pavilion. He kicked open the front door of the Moonlight building. He ordered his subordinates to go and capture the man. The refined hands flew out in all directions. Meanwhile, the fat man stood in the middle and observed. As soon as he takes action, it signifies the downfall of a family. Not a single person is left alive. Even if it's an egg, he'll shake it. The man chased after them. The guardian looked embarrassed, and then explained to the man, "They are just the expendable pawns. Those guys are notorious for their crude and violent ways. And this fat guy is a real monster." None of the surrounding people dared to say a word. The guardian quickly said, "These are the people from the Blood Sword sect. They're all scum." The man responded, "Aren't you also from the Blood Sword sect?" The next day, the man was enjoying candied hawthorn. A multitude of shadows appeared ahead. There were sounds of noise and curses. Suddenly looking over, it was the fat guy and his killing squad. They were free to snatch things away. The killing god team he led had easily wiped out the 3 major families in the Jianghu before. Now the leader can rest assured. Then let the fat guy take care of the forces behind the man as well. On the surface, the fat guy wants to take revenge for his brother, but secretly, he has other motives. The leader of the Grey Blood sect said, "The target this time is a man with dual knives who uses poison." At this moment, a 500-pound fat man stood up to show his loyalty. "Boss, I will take the killing god team to seek revenge right away." The leader of the Grey Blood sect didn't expect the fat man to take action personally. The man didn't answer. He silently poured another drink for Wufa. Meanwhile, the Huixuming had gathered all the leaders for a rape and murder meeting. And every time after these meetings, a family will be missing from the Jianghu. "I want to see how strong you really are. Seeing you dead, I wouldn't mind dying after." The man couldn't help but laugh. The enforcer became upset again. "Why are you laughing?" "After drinking, I indicated that even if the bloodthirsty ones came, I wouldn't leave. Anyway, if it really comes to a fight, they would kill me for not being able to protect the owner of the building. Besides, you alone could never defeat the bloodthirsty ones. Anyway, we're all going to die. How could an old hand in his 40s be so reckless?" The man found a secluded spot and started tasting tea. At this point, the guardian was already burning with rage. In the next second, I ran to the man's side. I had him pour me a drink as well, but the man said this is real poison. What you took before was fake poison. I just wanted to show you what real poison looks like. The guardian froze instantly. The man mocked the guardian as he walked away. "Why is he looking at me like that?" The man then asked, "What is this? You just ate it." She immediately became nervous. "Isn't this the antidote?" Hu Fan so easily obtained the antidote. The woman was somewhat moved. In the next second, without hesitation, she swallowed it directly. The man stared blankly at her. Only then did she realize something was wrong. The protector shuddered at the thought. Such a vile thing actually exists in this world. What's worse is that he had forgotten about it. Then, the man pulled out a wooden box from his chest. Inside was a small, sky-blue medicine bowl. The man suddenly realized. He had almost forgotten about it. If left untreated, in a few days, your limbs will seize and your veins will rupture. The brain jumped right out of the skull. "This brat. If you don't give me the antidote, let me go." The man remained silent in front of the protector. He then asked what the concern was. "A few days ago, my subordinate took the poison you gave." Previous leaders always ordered their subordinates to fight. Only now did the protector realize that this man seemed different from the others. But then he suddenly remembered something utterly despairing. He had once swallowed the poison given to him by the man. If this continued, he feared he would be implicated. Now, he had to find the antidote quickly. Then, escape. At this moment, the man told the protector to leave this place as soon as possible. The protector didn't expect him to say that. After thinking for a moment, he immediately had an idea. He just needed to take out a few leaders. Just like how he took Moonlit Tower. The Guardian thought the men were too rampant. The Bloodwave sect leaders all possessed unique skills. And 7 martial arts schools. The troops under their command number over 100. The man is feeling a bit uneasy at this point. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Not to mention so many hands. For those who stay, I will ensure your safety. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd erupted into noise. But just a few minutes later, they all packed up and left. They don't believe that a man can stand up to the Turtle Blood sect. The Turtle Blood sect controls 10 spring flower houses. The man instructed the protector to gather everyone from the Moonlight Tower. He already had some ideas. He wanted to do something big. He then announced that there would be a slaughter here in 2 days. Those who leave can take home 20 times their previous salary. The protector didn't expect the man to be so direct. But if he didn't take it, he would definitely die here. In the end, he swallowed it in one gulp. The man asked how long it would take for the Grey Blood sect to know about the situation here. The news will spread in just 3 days. Then he immediately started searching for something in his robe. He then pulled out a blue pill and tossed it to the protector. The protector felt a sharp sting as soon as he held it in his hand. He asked the man what it was. The man answered without hesitation that it was poison. But the man told the Guardian to be quiet. Everything should be done as I command. The Guardian nervously swallowed his tears. He then pledged his loyalty to you. The man, however, said that the matter of you attempting to assassinate me cannot be easily resolved. He had completely lost the will to resist. The man then sat down on the bench that represented his status. From now on, the Moonlight Tower will be under my control. But I need your assistance. How should I handle the inquiry from the Guardian? A red light struck with extreme speed right at the man who shouted. Instantly, he spat out blood, and amidst a piercing scream, he was torn into 2 pieces. The man accomplished all of this in less than a second. He then turned to look at the protector. At this moment, the protector was resigned to his fate. While the man was speaking, the burly man pulled out a sharp blade from his chest. In the next moment, he stabbed directly at the man. The man's long gown was blown up by the sword's energy, revealing the twin crescent blades. It wasn't that the man hadn't noticed me, but that he didn't take me seriously at all. The man turned around to warn the Guardian. If you move again, I'll make sure you can't use your hands. There was a loud crack. The Guardian was thrown backward, looking at the man who held the knife handle without any movement, and feeling his arms ache from the impact. The Guardian finally understood. His mind was filled with questions. How could this man know about the sword dance? Meanwhile, the Guardian behind the man struggled to rise. He wanted to take advantage of the man's distraction to strike him down with a single sword. In the next second, the Guardian used all his strength to charge at the man. Give me the antidote. I let the blood return gate spare your life, the man said coldly. As the words were spoken, the string instruments danced. The big man was instantly startled. The Blood Ash sect will destroy you. The men in the room once again heard the name Blood Ash sect. Their previous shelter, the sword dance troupe, had been wiped out by them. Seeing the man hesitate, the burly man quickly said this place also belongs to the Blood Ash sect. The man leans in a little and says, you were the first to poison. I caught you. Then you must die. The burly man shouted in fear. You kill me. 10 minutes later, the man closes his folding fan and walks towards Dahan. Dahan is trembling all over at this moment. His eyes are bloodshot. Looking at Dahan like this. At this moment, the man realized he was fatally poisoned. The subordinates around him had all fallen stiff. The man coldly watched everything unfold. Then, he took out the white umbrella his master gave him. Looking at the fallen bodies, a sinister smile appeared on his face. The leader still had no idea what was happening, but the next second, his lips went numb, gradually losing consciousness. His body suddenly stiffened, and he collapsed instantly. The man couldn't help but laugh. No need for gratitude. Just give me your head. At that moment, several henchmen suddenly collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Instead, he burst into laughter. A man about to die doesn't need to know so much, but if you tell me how you figured it out, I can give you the antidote. The host asked what he wanted from him. The man said, before you ask me anything, why don't you first explain why you poisoned me? The host didn't expect this insignificant poison to be noticed by the boy, but he wasn't planning to explain. But he had been trained by his master since childhood to be immune to all poisons. How could he fear such things? The host grinned and asked how the wine was. The man chuckled and said to pour another glass. In the pause while pouring the wine, while drinking, the host realized the man was just a decoration. It was simply because the man unsuspectingly drank the stranger's alcohol. In fact, when the man picked up the wine cup, he could already see that the wine was filled with toxins. The man calmly found a place to sit. This action obviously irritated the host a bit. However, the man's background and connections are still unclear. So, the host decided to investigate further. The two of them downed the excellent royal liquor in one go. Despite any reluctance, the bodyguards led the man. Before long, they brought the man to the host's private chamber. At this time, the room was already set with food and drinks, and there were 2 courtesans accompanying him. But the man calmly replied, "Who do you think you are? Let your host come out to talk." The host's face darkened. He concluded that this man had a significant background. He then instructed the bodyguards to take the man into the room, but he was told that he couldn't see her without an invitation. Then a small argument brought the host's bodyguard over. Seeing the man's excited expression, the bodyguard immediately became displeased. He told the man to go home. "I heard he can snap a tiger's neck." The man ignored the waiter's shout. Instead, he turned and walked upstairs. As he reached the staircase, someone stopped him. The man expressed his desire to see the host. A figure upstairs immediately catches his attention. The waiter turned his head to look. In an instant, he broke out in a cold sweat. "Young master, don't look. That's the owner of this place." As the music gradually spreads, the woman in red swings her sword, summoning a fixed bow tie. The woman in blue's clothes suddenly scatter. At this moment, the audience bursts into applause. But in the man's eyes, this dance is pure trash. Afterward, the man changed into a white robe. He arrived at the place occupied by the blood recovery gate. The man followed and entered the building. The beautiful music melodies fill the air. Occasionally, there's the sound of ice colliding on the stage. Both of them had wooden chopsticks stuck in their heads, and this speed only reached the time to flee. The man suddenly felt a rush of heat. He looked down. A sharp blade had already pierced through him. At this moment, the man felt a sense of life and death. In the next second, 2 sounds of breaking air rang in his ears. Looking back at the 2 behind him, they were both sent flying. He turned to look. The man stared intently at Lan Yi. He repeatedly asked, "Do you know Du Xiang?" Lan Yi said, "That little girl Du Xiang. We brothers have long hidden him away, but he doesn't look as good as those brought back by the sect leader." At that moment, Lan Yi suddenly stood up behind us. She smiled and said that she knew more about the sword dance class. The big man realized that things were not good. He turned around and cursed the dog bastard. "Shut up already." Just as he was about to get up, the man coldly ordered him to stop. He asked icily, "Are you also one of the tortoise son-in-law sect?" The burly man sensed the breath of death. We hurriedly denied that we were all decent people. Now, it's uncertain whether they are alive or dead. The man's expression suddenly changed. He emanated a chilling aura. The burly man, who had been around for a long time, knew that this man was extremely dangerous now. So he wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible. Upon hearing this, the leader of the Blood Wave sect extended his wicked claws. The members of the Sword Dance sect fought to the death, but ultimately met with failure. The master of the Blood Wave sect took away the women he had long coveted. They learned that the big man also knew about the Sword Dance class. The man questioned why the Sword Dance class was not recruiting here. Why had it now turned into the Moonlight Tower? The Han leader angrily stated that it was all done by the Ashes Gate. The Sword Dance sect has always been renowned for its beauty, and placed the weapon in the most conspicuous place. Seeing the man's expression change upon seeing the weapon, the big man became wary of the kid. Moreover, he was dressed in black clothes that indicated a job interview. Then the two started chatting a bit. By the way, he planned to poison this arrogant man. Although the big man felt conflicted, there are people in the martial world who invite him. Chijiu Mei would not refuse. He then picked up his gear and went to the appointment. The man pointed to the moonlit pavilion across the way. The big man sneered. So she came from a brothel. The man's anger instantly reached its peak. Then he invited the big man to have a drink. So I explained that I left this place at a young age. Now that I have returned, I momentarily forgot the rules. Please forgive me. The old man beside me immediately became interested. He then inquired about my family. He knew it was about to get physical. The next second, a big guy at another table shouted in frustration, "Here black represents provocation and contempt. You should know that, right?" The man came down from the mountain. I momentarily forgot this rule. The surrounding men immediately stood up. The waiter came over to ask what was needed. The man immediately recognized his old friend, Dao Quan. But seeing him like this, he probably didn't recognize him. Looking at the man dressed all in black. But it became quiet the moment the door opened. The customers inside all stared at the man at the entrance, faced with hostile gazes. The man paid no attention. He just found a corner and sat down to rest. The former sword dance troupe had now turned into a moonlit road. The surrounding vendors had all changed as well. Only the inn in the back remained the same as before. So the man decided to inquire about the current situation. There had been a noisy dispute. The third in the weapon ranking, by Yushan. Then came a series of heartfelt advice. After descending the mountain, he would either dominate the world, or become infamous. He then bid farewell to his two masters. After descending the mountain, he found that everything had changed. The man was immediately startled. This double moon blade had already become a symbol of identity. He immediately declined his master's kind offer, but the poison demon said that he couldn't descend the mountain without taking it. He had spent a lifetime grappling with suspicion and reluctance to fall behind. After all, in his previous life, his notorious reputation was well known. Anyone who saw him would have to bow in fear. The elders knew but did not interfere, so they decided to respect his choice. Then the poison demon threw the weapon he had used for a lifetime onto the table. Your martial arts are not yet complete. With your current ability, you still want revenge. But the man replied, as a disciple of the poison demon and the healing heart, who would dare cross me? The old poison demon felt very gratified after hearing this. He was taken in by an organization called Jianweban, and they made him feel warmth again. This time, the man was going down the mountain to repay kindness, and seek revenge for his enemies. The old poison demon chuckled lightly and said, I told you before. He learned to use his left hand for healing, writing with his right hand. That day, the man suddenly said he wanted to go down the mountain and take a look. Delayamo instantly understood the man's intentions. It turned out that when the man was 5, his parents were killed. Seeing that the boy was still alive, the two elders decided to take him as a disciple. They taught him the principles. Thus, they tormented the boy for decades. Until he grew into adulthood, they ceased their internal strife. The poison master locked the boy in a poison altar for a year, letting every poisonous insect burrow into the boy's body. The healer opened all the boy's gates, then used the healing techniques to treat him. Half-brother twins have been cultivating together for over 100 years. One is the pancreas that saves the suffering world. The other is the poison master that dominates the realm. Thus, they have openly and secretly contended for 100 years. But because of a boy,